So, were there any of these Alabama Georgia players? It doesn't have to be just down to those two
Yeah.
teams, but obviously they were on the field and they just flooded
To
the transfer portal.
yeah.
But anybody that comes to mind, anybody that you're seeing other people talking about a lot?
Yeah, there's a lot of names. There's a lot of names. There was names even before the damn game started, but we can go through a few of them here. I think one that everybody likes to talk about, and we've talked about him multiple times the last couple of years, and even definitely through his recruitment, is Trey Sanders.
5-star.
But yeah, former 5-star running back. Florida State was heavy into that recruitment. Trey really liked Tallahassee and being near close to home. Here in the panhandle of Florida. As we know, didn't get a lot of burn this past season. He did, but he was not RB1, which, I think he wants to be that starter. Why would it make sense for him to enter the transport and leave Alabama? Because, Robinson, this last season, he's going to be gone. So, yeah, he would be the next man up, right? No, Gibbs from Georgia Tech is coming in. And he is expected to be RB1, who is extremely talented running back. Florida State was hoping to get really involved in his recruitment, which they did, but ended up picking Georgia Tech. Plays a year, and he's going to be transferring over to Alabama, who is expected to be the starter there. I don't think Trey wants to be that. We'll see if he enters the transfer portal. It's going to be a quick blowing up FSU Twitter kind of day once if he does enter the transfer portal, because I think Florida State would best play knock the tires there on Trey Sanders and see. The biggest thing with him is health wise, and I think those injuries that he had with his knee and then the car accident, those kind of things are just freak accidents. I don't think he's a prone kind of guy. You can't even say that either, because if you go back to Deshaun Corbin, he had torn his ACL and came in and was Florida State's leading running back rusher. So that was a transfer from Texas A&M, now heading off into the NFL draft. So, we'll see on this. I think it'd be really too early to say anything or give any kind of anything until that transfer portal. If he does enter the transfer portal, then yeah, we could start giving some predictions and start knocking some sources and see what's going on there, and if there's any kind of close interest and any ties to where Florida State could, be in that recruitment for him. But yeah, we'll see on that. Go ahead.
And with Trey Sanders, it's not like he's obviously not satisfied coming in as a 5-star with the role that he's had and the amount of playing time, but it's not like he's been on the shelf completely. For the best football program in the country. He did carry it 14 times in a playoff game against Cincinnati. So he's on the field and he's playing. His other decent games in which he got some reps, season opener against Miami, he scored a touchdown, had 8 carries for 41 yards. Mississippi State, 4 carries, 27 yards. Had 10 carries in the Iron Bowl against Auburn, had 6 carries in the SEC championship game, and then another 2 carries in the national championship game. So he's been on the field for Alabama in huge games, so he's not going to be intimidated or not be accustomed to whatever's on the schedule for Florida State. So here's a guy that's ready to roll and ready to go if he so chooses to follow through on the transfer portal.
Yep, and there's a lot of family. I mean, this is a panhandle guy. He's got a lot of family around, so it makes sense. But I don't want to rush in anything. This is just, we're talking about names that a lot of y'all I know in the chat and watching right now have probably talked about or seen on the Twitter timeline of Trey Sanders. So it's good to just have a little conversation on it. Nothing can really happen. We're not going to go in the deep details until that transfer portal option is hit there, if he does indeed enter it. But Gibbs going there definitely changes up a lot of things for him. Maybe Jermaine Burton up next, maybe from Georgia, the wide receiver.
Yep.
Mark, maybe we can speak about here. That was one of the names today and throughout the week that Florida State fans have been talking about heavily on the timeline. Florida State, as we know, has been bringing in a lot of new wide receivers, starting off with Micah Pittman. You also had Jordan Wilson come in. You had Winston Wright also from West Virginia, speedy guy that joined Florida State. I don't even know if we even talked about him yet, but Florida State has added a lot of new attrition to that wide receiver room, which we'll talk about maybe in the next episode next week about potentially losing some of those guys in the room, not the new guys, but some potential transfers in the future there for that wide receiver room because it's starting to get a little slammed and packed. But going back to Jermaine Burton, Georgia wide receiver, I think 6'4", 210, 220 kind of guy, big wide receiver, lengthy. Could there be ties to Florida State here? We saw Micah Pittman tweet earlier today, Florida State's new wide receiver signee, say that they are not done yet. And there's been some kind of, the detectives are on it here in Tallahassee trying to figure out if that means ties to former teammates in Calabasas, California, with Jordan Wilson and Micah Pittman, those three playing together. Could those three team up together in college at FSU? We'll see if Burton ends up hitting the transfer portal, but will be something to keep an eye on if he definitely indeed does, if he does hit that transfer portal. But there was a lot of bat signals and teasing kind of tweets earlier today from some of the graphic designers that put out the commitment edits for a lot of these guys. And, we're trying to connect all the dots, but I think some of this is a little rushed. But Jermaine Burton may be one to keep an eye on, Mark, if he does indeed hit the transfer portal.
Kind of similar to Trey Sanders in that he's not a featured player for Georgia, but he's on the field, gets a ton of reps, gets a lot of targets, caught 26 passes this past national championship season, 497 yards, over 15 yards per catch, 5 touchdowns. That's coming off a 2020 season with pretty much exactly the same production, 27 catches for 484 and 3 touchdowns. So, yeah, Jermaine Burton, again, you're going to get a guy that's not going to be fazed by anything that he sees on the schedule, opponents. He's seen it all. He's played in the biggest games, and he would be an excellent addition.
Yeah, and Florida State, if that were to happen, we're talking way into the future. If that does indeed happen, I mean, this wide receiver room is looking at a big time flip alone, and flip incomes guys hitting the transfer portal. I think that's going to happen more, maybe coming in closer to the spring, but that whole wide receiver room went to thin to just now it's just ticking time bomb to blow up, and there's going to be some guys in the transfer portal, and still waiting on Destin Hill. Is that going to happen this summer? That's the last time period that it can happen. If it doesn't happen then it will never happen. I'm almost on the point of it ain't ever happening. But if that were to happen too, and you have Destin Hill join, I mean, you're completely stacked there, and there's going to be guys leaving the program to find other places to get PT. So I just know that's another name that a lot of people have been talking about since on Twitter. This is a good question here. Michael Trigg, former big-time tight end product in high school, ended up picking USC. As we know, Florida State was really, 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 really close in on this recruitment near the end. Marvin Wilson had his kind of his episode with Mike Norvell after the, I don't really know what to call it then. And I think Marvin Wilson wouldn't even know really what to call it then either, but calling out Mike Norvell and saying not trustworthy, whatever that was. And Michael Trigg kind of pulled off his recruitment and kind of went silent on Florida State after that. And, was really listening to what Marvin Wilson was saying and didn't want to really talk to the staff as much anymore. I think it was reported and rumored that he's going to visit Ole Miss. We'll see if there's any kind of contact being made between Florida State and Trigg. I don't know if that kind of burned bridges then between Mike Norvell, the staff, and Trigg once he kind of went silent on them and all the Marvin Wilson stuff was going on. But we'll see. That one is such a toss-up. This one we can talk a little bit more about because he's in the transfer portal, but for me, I've not heard much of anything on this. I think if it were to be, it'd be pretty silent, and I would be hearing sooner rather than later that Florida State has been in contact with Trigg just because of his past affiliation and the recruitment between the staff and him, and that being so close. So the longer it goes, and the less I'm not just hearing anything, I don't see Trigg being in Tallahassee. So we'll see if anything turns up by the end of the week.
Yeah, Michael Trigg played in 4 games for USC. It was a pretty bad USC team that was completely off the national radar. Who watched any USC football this year? He played 4 games, caught 7 balls for a touchdown against Colorado. So that's what he had working this fall.
Yeah, and like I said, I think this would be all relationship, and Florida State has another big room of tight ends. I still think you can have a lot of numbers there, but talent is a little bit differently. I mean, I think Cam McDonald is on another tier ahead of some of the other guys behind him. I think there's a few more younger guys that are up and coming, but Cam McDonald's really sitting there at the top. You would like to have maybe guy with more experience be out there, but you've got Preston Daniel, and you got a few more that have really just a small amount that have more playing time than Preston Daniel, and definitely Cam McDonald. So we'll see if anything pops up with the Trigg stuff. I'm just not hearing anything between Florida State and him right now.